Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's XAUUSD Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. So next webinar is Forex Trading Live Market Analysis. That's what's coming up this evening. Just to give you a heads up what's coming up from me through the course of the week. Tomorrow evening, I'm going through the 100 pip trade entry technique, set and forget position trading approach. And then on Thursday, more analysis from myself. Okay, all my webinars are 8 p.m. Sydney time at the moment. All right, before we get into it, if you can read through the disclaimer, if you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you're more than welcome to watch, or you can follow the link that I've given you so you can come into the webinar and talk to us. For everybody else in the webinar room, I've got the chat box open and the question answer box open, so you can drop your questions into either. I've got both open and monitoring. So everybody, please read through the disclaimer. All right, let's give you a few more moments. Now, of course, we've got the US CPI data coming out this evening. US PPI data coming out tomorrow evening, and then the next day, the US interest rate decision. So markets are going to be very volatile, very difficult to trade at the moment. So we'll look at the charts, but I'm certainly not going to be trading until after any of those events. Let the news come out. If you can see something that you want to trade after that, fair enough. All right, so if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at ACY Securities, and I am a full-time trader. I've been trading on Forex market now for more than 15 years and mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. Just shoot me an email. You can connect with us at the website through the week at acy.com. Go to the Market News tab, or our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia. If you want to connect with me personally, then my Twitter and LinkedIn handles are just there. And if you want to get access to our Telegram channel, then contact Nathan.bray. His email is at the bottom here, but I'll put it in the chat. If you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates as well for MT4, ones I'm using in the webinars and in my education webinars, then he can set you up with that as well. So I'll just put Nathan's contact details there for you in the chat. All right, so any questions about anything, demo accounts, live accounts, he'll be able to address all that for you. All right, so first up, let's review the news items coming out for the week. It's a very big week for news. So as I was just mentioning before, as you were reading the disclaimer, we do have the US CPI data. Now this time shown on my time, Queensland time. I'll go to forexfracture.com and review what is coming out for the week yourselves in your time zone. So my time zone, Queensland time, 11:30 p.m. we have the US CPI data coming out. Just expecting year on year a fraction of a tick down. It's going to be interesting to see how that data presents this evening. I'm sure it's going to be volatile. If it doesn't come in anywhere near print, it's going to be exceptionally volatile. Tomorrow, 5 p.m., we have the pound GP figures. And we also have the 11:30 p.m. my time, the PPI figures, more inflation figures for the US. All right. Expecting a fraction of an uptick there. So CPI, we're expecting same month on month. Core CPI fractionally upticking, year on year fractionally down ticking. And then 5 in the morning on Thursday, we've got the interest rate decision, expecting no change there. All right. I think even if the inflation figures don't come in expected, I don't think we'll get a change on the federal funds rate unless this inflation figure suddenly comes out year on year at 4%, which I'm sure it's not. If that pretty much comes in as expected, I don't think we're going to see any change on the federal fund rate. What we might see is the statement that comes out, well, the press conference, I should say. What gets said in the statement in the press conference, is that different from the month before? All right, so those are the big events over the next 24 hours and a bit. And of course, in Thursday, we also have the UK and the Eurozone interest rate decision too. All right, and the Aussie unemployment rate. So head over to forexfracture.com and make sure you know what's coming out a good 2 days ahead of time, okay? All right, so let's get into the charts. Now, what I want you to think about is, not trading ahead of the news, but what are we going to be doing after the news? And what I'm looking at for this week, and this is where I'm approaching the market, is what did last week do? We had quite a positive job figure on Friday. US dollar finished. This is the US dollar index. The weekly chart had a positive week up. It's gotten support over the last 2 weeks at the 62% retracement of this major range. And we're moving back above an old area of weekly support here. Are we maybe putting a long-term bottom here to move up? Now, we had a very positive week last week, so I'm expecting we may pull back within the range of last week a little bit. We could pull back to weekly support on the index, 103.60. And I'm expecting the opposite maybe to be happening on the pairs to the US dollar. So what I've been doing is mapping out my weekly range for last week and looking at the retracement areas within last week's range for the news events coming out this week. Okay, that's how I'm going to look at the market this week. So we'll drop down the 4-hour chart here on the dollar index. I've got my weekly high to low here, and I'm just going to monitor that range. And I'm going to be monitoring the 62 to 79% area and seeing how price reacts within that area if we do pull back on the dollar index. So that's that area there. Does this area offer support this week or continued move up through the week? And I'm going to be doing the same on all the other pairs. Waiting to see if we get some kind of what we call a normal pullback within the range before a further move in the direction of last week's trading. All right, so let's have a look at what the S&P 500 is doing. It's been moving above July's high. So got a little bit sideways here, but couldn't break the trend. And now, if you are long, you want price to hold above really the July high, 46.11. For me personally, it's very high up here at the moment. And when we look at the larger range, air must be thin up here for the bias because this is the major range. Yes, we're approaching this weekly high here, 46.3722. All right. Now, if we get very good inflation figures in that they get lower, that's suggestive of getting interest rate cuts next year, and that's going to be positive for the stock market. But in any event, if you use fib tool analysis, we are getting very high up here within the range where yes, selling pressure can come in. I did notice on the monthly chart that we are moving to a new high now. So we actually have a higher bottom, higher top on the monthly chart. But we could, over the next month or two, pull back within this range before, maybe we're a little bit overbought up here. Maybe we need to pull back before then continuing up. All right, so we're very high up here at the moment. I don't know if I want to be a buyer on the indices at the moment at such high levels. But the trend, from a monthly scale here at the moment is turning to up. It would have to, obviously, in the early phase of next year, have to negotiate this very historical. Well, this is the high of the stock market, so we'll see how price wants to negotiate up in that area. But of course, we're getting up to very high prices on the stocks at the moment. All right. All right, let's get into euro dollar. So I have already drawn my range across the 4-hour chart because I was looking at it earlier, but let's just have a look at what happened last week in terms of the candle. So last week, well, the last 2 weeks, we've been having a very good sell-off from the 62% retracement of this range from high to low. And what I'm maybe anticipating is that we've had a decline, rally, are we declining like so, long term? All right. So what I'm looking for is, are we going to rally back up inside the range of last week before having another week down? That's what I'm watching for. So day chart, we're just on day support at the moment, getting some support here at 107.56. So a very negative day Friday, and then we're just kind of profit taking as we're heading into the next data event. All right, so just want to show you where this is a range of last week. So if you've got my chart layouts and templates, then you'll have the same thing. Often we just retrace back up within the range of last week. So the 62% level here at 108.28 is overlapping with a level of resistance. Okay, it's from over here, 108.33 that we broke below last week. That's actually a weekly level of support. It was some form of support here as we moved above. So that could quite clearly become an area of resistance this week after a news event. We could easily get, it's only 50 pips away. We can easily touch that area today. And the next level up area of resistance at 108.52. So if we go to the 4-hour chart, two areas to watch. 108.33 approximate area, 62 levels at 108.28. And the next area is up at the 105.52 level and 108.57, which is a 79% retracement. So those are two areas that I'm watching. So those fib levels are from last week's range. All right, so we often price cycle back up within the range of last week before then continuing the move down. So you've always got a higher probability of success. I don't know if his price is going to get up to these levels, but you're going to have a higher probability of success. So that was a move down last week overall. Often what will happen is, and this is going to be my same commentary on every pair this evening, so I'm not going to go through it on every pair, but coming up to the 62% or the 79% of the weekly range, before then maybe potentially then put in the high for the week to then come down and put in the low of the week. All right. So that's what I'm kind of in my head playing out as a game plan for the week. Can we see that kind of rally on the pairs to the US dollar before the next decline? All right. Euro yen, of course, we had a massive sell-off, especially on Thursday. Friday, we had a rejection. Again, that fib's just across last week's range. I'm just monitoring. So from a weekly chart perspective, we false broke at the moment this weekly low, but it's changed the weekly trend down. It won't change the monthly trend, although it hasn't broken a significantly monthly low like this one here, but it has broken a minor low, and we're getting a little bit of a retracement from that level. And it's interesting, if I just squash this chart in, is see how the choppy price action we had here in this price area historically before the decline. While doesn't this kind of monthly aggressive candle look very similar to, this, maybe this moving down? We'll have to wait and see what transpires over the next few months. But you can see in this area, there's quite an aggressive stance here by the sellers, got a bit choppy in the area, but ultimately it was where the market took its stance to have a long-term decline. So are we going to get the same kind of scenario here? Well, I'll have to wait and see. So maybe the monthly trend there is really tilting back to the downside a little bit, breaking this low. So we're having a natural bounce here at the moment. Friday's candle rejected down here. And this area, still this week, if we revisit this, it's proved to you these 2 days that it's an area of support. Of course, price traded through, but this is where all the institutional orders were positioned to buy. And this is why price has held. Now, we may come down for another test. Can we move through? If we start to hold, if you see it holding there, it held there last week, this could be a very good buying level if we retest. At the moment, we're moving up and holding at this broken day support level. Not able to keep below this kind of bottom of a range area. Kind of tagged it this trading day already as support. But I'm just monitoring. We could go back down and retest the level of support at 154.42 this week, or we could move through. But what I'm looking at is where we're retracing back up inside last week's candle. So that's last week's range. And you can see that we came up today resistance, and we're starting to maybe want to hold at the 62% area. So we may come back up for another retest. So that 62 levels at 157.30. And what we might see, if that is the high of the week, then you could be monitoring this range. See how we're having a 4-hour candle up at the moment. I'm just going to drop to the 15-minute chart. So it's this range here. Is through the course of the news event later on today, watch for a further test of the daily resistance level where we held yesterday at 157.68 and the 79% level. So this area up here, we'll be watching that area today after the news. Do we get up to that area, and what happens after that? Does that area hold? Because that could be a very good selling level to continue the decline down. And that 62% level from the weekly chart, from the last week's range is here at 157.30. Okay. All right, euro pound. I'd really leave this pair alone at the moment. It's very choppy over maybe the last 3 or 4 days now. The fact that it's very choppy is probably getting major support down at monthly support. So monthly support is this area here. It's at 85.47. All right, and with it having the euro in it and the pound in it, and we have those 2 interest rate decisions coming out on Thursday. Being in the euro pound, I think this week is not a very safe bet. All right, it'd be better looking at something else. But you can see here that we are holding down at monthly support, and we are rather range bound. That's a daily look. You can see all the rangy candles. We are getting some pull back up the range today. So clear support is coming in at 85.47. So if we revisit that this week, then of course that would be a good area to look for an opportunity to buy. All right. And as I said last week, this area here is weekly resistance, 86.09. When I finished on Thursday, I said, this is support and this is resistance, and we may move back up to the resistance area in the short term. We may be wanting to feel this little bit of an imbalance here, which we're doing at the moment today, and we could revisit 86.09 to be possible resistance, just a little bit above that is last month's low at 86.13. So 86.09 to 86.13 is potential resistance for this pair. And of course, down here, support 85.47. So quite range bound at the moment. So do we get to the outskirts of the range? Does it hold? Can it trade back down to once more retest monthly support? That would be my game plan. Personally, as we're heading into Thursday with the euro and the pound interest rate decisions there, I'll probably leave that pair alone. This may not go anywhere until after that event. And then, of course, it all depends what the interest rate decisions are. If nothing really changes, this may still stay rather range bound. All right, let's have a look at the pound dollar. All right, so last week we sold down from weekly resistance. Okay, just got a little bit above weekly resistance and of the range, very similar to the euro dollar. We're in the 62% area. So whilst this is showing a higher bottom, higher top on the weekly here, this just does this range here, which is the monthly range. The monthly trend is actually higher bottom, higher top, higher bottom, but are we coming up to maybe putting a lower top to head down this way after a 3-month sell-off? We had a 3-month sell-off. We kind of had maybe just over 1 month move up, 1 month and a week to the 62% level. Are we holding there? All right, at the moment, yes, we are. So I'm taking the tact of what happened last week. Are we going to have another week down this week? At the moment, we're just holding on 125.06. So this is an area of support to watch through the week. If we once more retest 125.06 and we start to hold, look for your setup to buy. Do the 4-hour charts. This is the range of last week. You could go up to the final high if you really wanted to. I'm just going to use the weekly range. All right. 79% overlaps nicely with 126.79, which is, I think that's the weekly level from over here. It's a weekly high over there that the market Forex broke a few days, but then the 79% level is overlapping. So that's a great level to watch for a retest this week. And possibly to hold for then a move down. Now you could draw your fib up to the high up here. It's not going to change the 79% level too much. It adds about 6 pips to it. So I'll just keep it from last week's high. And again, like my comment, really because the only fib here that has resistance overlapping is the 79% level. If this can get a bullish move up this week or a bullish rally back up within the range of last week, yes, I will look up here at the 79% level. Now, I don't know whether it can do that. So we'll have to wait and see. And I want to just drop down to the 15-minute chart. So that level up there is 126.79. If we can get a news event spike up there to watch that level. And over the last 2 trading days, I just want to squash this in a little bit to see what happened on Friday. Friday, we got capped up at 126. Thursday, we just managed to trade above 126. Friday, we got capped there. And then yesterday, we couldn't get there. So that's another area to watch today because quite clearly, Thursday, Friday got capped at 126. So 126 is really where the sellers are intraday at the moment. All right. So that is another area to watch. If we only have a rally back up within the range of, say, Friday's candle. All right, up there at the first red pivot point and the figure up there at 126. All right, so I'm just trying to come up with a game plan of levels that I can watch after the news events. I'm not going to be looking at gauging right now in the market because when the CPI data comes out, this could go up or down. I've got no way of knowing how the market's going to react from it. So I'm not going to open a position right now and face, what do I do with my position when the news is, imminent? All right. Pound yen. That's the range of the last week where it's maybe failing at the 62 level. Now, last week's candle, very negative weekly candle. Let's just look at the monthly chart. We're, of course, here at very historical high levels. A lot of institutions, they're looking at these higher time frames, historical price points to sell at. All right. At the moment, this is just holding to a monthly uptrend. It hasn't broken this low here, but we're at very high monthly levels, selling levels for large traders. The weekly trend has turned down and we've popped back up this week to false break this weekly high at 183.81 and retest or almost retest this area of broken support, 184.46. Now, again, I want to monitor the range of last week because we had a week down and we're going to have another week down after moving back up inside the range. So that's last week's high to a low. And we haven't quite been up to the 79% level, and we've got a fraction short of the day broken support level. But quite clearly, getting into the 62 to 79% area is where the selling pressure is coming in. That's that area there. So at the moment, I will be watching to see if this can rally back up within this drop. All right, you can move that down to the 15-minute chart. And then simply, as I was showing you on, I think it was a euro, what was it? The euro, I think it was, where I was showing the move down, is look to see if, we've obviously failed at 183.81 yesterday. 79% that was at 183.93 and you got 184 there. So that's an area to watch today. Up here. What happens if price can get driven up there on the news event today? All right. Clearly yesterday it was very high priced because from that area, we're at the lower the move from that area at the moment, and we've moved down 150 pips. So quite clearly up here is where the sellers are located themselves. So we have moved down to fill this imbalance from yesterday's price action, we may, see a move up here and then hold to move down. So you don't want to be selling at the bottom of that move. You want to be looking to sell a rally if you're interpreting that the trend is maybe going to have another week down this week from last week's movement down. All right. Now, of course, pound dollar, pound yen are going to be highly affected by the interest rate decision on Thursday from the UK. Right, Aussie yen. So all these yen pairs had a very nasty decline last week. Some news got released that maybe the bodge, maybe inflation, maybe it's picking up. Maybe the bodge is going to be in a position where it can change its monetary policy stance. We'll have to wait and see. But we come down to this area of support from this range, 79% area. And whilst I'm monitoring that range, the bigger range, the bigger pattern really to think about on this pair is the monthly double top up here. All right. Is this a long-term double top? So we're seeing a sell-off on all the yen pairs at the moment. We have, potential bodge policy change may be coming. We have potentially the US interest rates over as we move into the new year. Are they at some point going to start to lower their interest rates? So maybe that carry trade scenario is lessening. So are we forming a double top up here? The weekly trend, it is still holding. And that's the 79% level that I was just discussing. So there's actually two sides to trade this. Are we holding at the 79% area here to continually move up and through this year's high and last year's high? Or are we forming, let's go to the daily chart. Sorry, I want to go back to the monthly chart. Are we forming a major double top here? If we're forming a major double top, we could see a decline down into the 73 area, 74 area. That's the price projection for the double top. So in this area at the moment, if you can see continual weakness, maybe it's a good time to take a positional play for maybe this double top pattern to trade to the downside. All right, so trend on the day chart is down. Any rally from last week's decline is getting capped at this area here. Day support, day resistance. All right, so that area is round about the 96 area. I'm using this level over here, in actual fact, 96.06. And when we monitor the range of last week, we haven't quite got to the 62% level. I actually like this area up here a lot better than where we're sticking at the moment. So we do have the, I believe, let me just refresh my memory. We do have the Aussie. Did I see the Aussie job figures on Thursday in here? So that could drive price up. We do also have some Chinese data on Friday. So a level that I really like would be this 79% area, 97.04, 96.91. What I am noticing today is, whilst we've obviously held at 96.06, we have already moved up today and pretty much held at the figure 9600. So maybe we are starting to get capped at 96. So maybe price action can get driven up to 97. At the moment, before the news event, 96 is holding the market, okay? So with that in mind, you could, over the next 24 hours, quite clearly be watching 96. You can see it yesterday. Held, tried to move above, fell below. Today we're holding there. So quite clearly 96 up to 96.06 at the moment is where the market's getting capped. And you may well see a revisit of that area. If price comes back up to you and starts to hold, can you see it set up to sell? Sure, I'd like to see the higher level, because that obviously offers greater risk reward to the downside if we continue to decline. But you have to see what levels are being respected and then see whether price action is going to react to those levels. So the first level is at 96 to 96.06 once the news comes out today. But with other news events through the course of the week, I would be watching up here at the 97.04 area. So approximately the 97 level up there. All right. Okay, Aussie dollar, it's getting capped pretty much at 66 today. All right, now we had a very healthy sell-off last week. So So here's the weekly look. Outside reversal week, it did actually get support on the bottom of the week on these weekly highs between 65. Well, the low one's at 65.11, but it came back down or within a pip or two at 65.22, that weekly high there. So ahead of news events, that is being support. It could be further support this week. But, from a monthly chart, this is a lower top, lower bottom. We're holding at 62% level. So I'm actually seeing this kind of pattern forming potentially on euro dollar, pound dollar, Aussie dollar. We're retracing back up to the 62% area of the 3 or 4 month decline that we've had. Are we forming a further lower top on these pairs to the US dollar? All right, so that's the weekly look. So a very negative week last week. We went to a fresh high, but couldn't hold it. It was my first day back, I think, from holidays, and I was thinking that looks like a really good area to get a short in, but as soon as I hadn't traded for a week or more, then I thought I'll wait a little bit. Wish I really hadn't now, but that's the range of last week, and we're just getting a little bit sideways here at the moment. We are getting capped at 66 though, but I can see a 7% fib up here and a 62% level of the bigger range. So that's around about 65.94 again. That would be a perfect area to see price come up to. In some form, it could, this could be a left shoulder, that could be a head, and we could come up into this area here for a right shoulder to form through the week. All right, so looking at the high levels on all these pairs within the range of last week, can the news events of the week get price driven up to an area where we could potentially see the sellers come in to form the high of the week for then a decline down for the rest of the week? All right. Now, doesn't mean to say price can get up to the areas I'm watching, because I know today we've been a fraction short of 66. You can see on Friday, job figure moving down, and it got capped here at 66 on a rally back too through New York trading. So intraday at the moment, that's quite clearly where the market is watching for resistance at 66. Been a fraction short today. So through the week, we definitely watch 66 to be resistance. We can definitely revisit that level today. And, over the next couple of days, what is happening at 66 is getting retesting and holding, because that could be a very good level to look to structure a trade setup, whatever your trade setup is, okay? All right, New Zealand yen sold off like all the other yen pairs. It is at a very historical high points from a monthly perspective. All right. Hasn't been the best pair really for a good year and a half, maybe 2 years. It's been very very range bound on the monthly chart. Has gradually ground up this year, but it is a very historical high points. This area here. So if we take this range, I'll just draw some lines in. We're coming up to try to test this high. And we've been a little bit short. But it's not too dissimilar when we talk about historical high points, that this move up here was coming up to try to test this high point. All right. So we're actually at the high prices of then we moved up to try and test that high point. Actually came up to this area here. So this area here, if I can, that's all the data I've got. Quite clearly, this is a very historical price point where this false broke, this false broke and held, just false broke, but it was a false break. And here we're a fraction short. So this is high priced for the New Zealand yen. So it's not going to be any stretch of the imagination to maybe expect that we can't move above that area, because that's 1990 way to the left, one fraction into the 80s. So that's like 35 year high point where we really haven't been able to move above. So unless there's a major shift and weakness to the yen, and as we're maybe seeing some uptick in the Bodge policy, maybe coming out over the next month or two, then that's all happening at a historical high point. So this could be a very good time to maybe start trying to structure a long-term positional play to the downside. All right, so yes, we're still in an uptrend here on the monthly chart, and this month we're getting some support from this monthly top here at 88.16, and weekly trend is holding to a trend here. This is just a retracement, so it's going to be a very similar kind of 79% retracement that we're seeing on the Aussie and on the weekly scale. Came directly down to the 79% level and held on this monthly top at 88.16. So, if we are going to move further down, this area needs to break. If we are starting to see a major reversal on the yen crosses. Right, on the day chart scale, this has moved to a downtrend, and I am monitoring. We're coming back up here to this weekly high. I think it's also a monthly high at 89.69. Fraction short, so that's the area to watch really this week. Can we get above that area, or are we holding in that area this week? And if we're monitoring the range of last week, there's last week's high, to see where price can maybe spike up to the news events. This has gone a little bit short of the 62% level and the resistance level. All right, so that will be the area that we'll be watching this week. If we can test it on a news event, can we hold here? Now, whether or not we can retest, get close to testing that area this week on a news event, time will tell. If we break this low here, then maybe we can't. All right. So you'll just have to monitor price action, but that would be an area that we'll watch to get tested this week. And can it hold for then, putting the high of the week in this area from move down? All right. I just want to look at the 15-minute price action. Just trading down a little bit at the moment. So, we may spike in there today. Then do we hold? And can you see a reversal that you can trade? All right, New Zealand dollar. That's my range for last week. I was watching up here last week when we're coming up here. We didn't quite meet that area on a retest. So if you go to the monthly chart, we've actually come up last week to retest these two monthly lows. So that's an area of resistance that's holding the market at 62.04. Very similar range that we've been discussing on the pairs to the US dollar. There's a 62% area of, this is a weekly chart, but that's the monthly decline and then rally. So another weekly reversal at the 62% area or close to. Really getting halted at that reference point from the monthly chart. All right. So we're putting in lower tops and bottoms here. I would like to see a further retest of 62.04 if it can do that. So the range of last week, if we just go back to the day chart, you could be drawing your fib from that lower top to bottom at the moment, and that range could most definitely be in play. Just go to the 4-hour chart. So that's this range here. This range could definitely be in play. So it's, you could be monitoring that range. With the news events, do we come up to 79% level on hold? You could see a little minor head and shoulder pattern forming here. At the 79% level, 61.73. That could come together. Personally, I would much prefer to see it coming up a little bit higher within last week's range. So can we see? That's the range of last week with a reversal week. Can we come up to the 79% area and the resistance area, the monthly resistance area? So 61.96 up to 62.04. That would be where I would watch. We might see a false break of this high. We may see a test of that high to the left. And that could still be some form of here, left shoulder, head, or right shoulder up there. All right, that would be my preferred area. It's also last month's high as well. So there's lots going on up there where I am sure there's, large sell orders just waiting for someone to come up there and buy in that area so they can trade. So for me, that would be the area to watch. All right, now, dollar Canadian, this is how I've been monitoring it since last week. Can we pull back to the 79% level here on the 4-hour chart? Because we've actually maybe on the weekly scale here. So we had a positive week last week. And this range here, over the last 2 weeks, we've been both weeks, last week and the week before, has tested the 79% level and held. So a bit of a reversal down there at 79% level. This is a day chart. Now, are we going to form a higher bottom here? And what I've been monitoring is this range. Can we maybe pull back to 79% level? So, first of all, we're holding at this level, 79% level. Then are we going to now pull back to the smaller 79% level for a higher bottom to form to move back up the range? So if you like the dollar Canadian, I would be watching down there at 135.09 to 135.00, 79% fib down to the figure. It could come down and retest once more the 79% level at 134.89, but maybe, we tested that area for 2 weeks and held. So maybe now we're just waiting for a higher bottom to form. All right. At the moment, I do note that last month's low is here at 135.40. And you can see there's a little bit of a range forming here on the 4-hour chart. Buys are coming in ahead of last month's low. So maybe we can't get to the lower level, but the news is going to work that out for you. Will the news drive it down here or not and get you a cheaper price fill if you're fishing for an opportunity to buy on the dollar Canadian? All right. All right, dollar franc. We're false breaking monthly support areas at the moment. If you go to the monthly chart, there are 2 lows here that were false breaking. 86.99. 87.57. All right. So this week's low at the moment. We're only in the second trading day, but we are tagging that monthly low at 87.57 and holding. And if we are going to hold at this monthly area of support, I have discussed this already. This range here, very similar to what we're seeing on the dollar CAD, 79% pullback. All right. So are we actually pulling back to go like so? Day chart at the moment still in a downtrend. So it's, whilst I can see obvious reasons why this monthly area of support is acting as support, we could still hold this lower top and move to a further lower bottom. So yeah, I'm going to need to go down to a lower time frame and have a look. Last week's range, if you think we're bottoming out in this monthly area of support, and it's obviously a historical area, then, can we see a 79% retracement? That overlaps with the 86.99. So 86.99, 8,700, 79% fib the figure. That would be a great area to watch for support this week if we get down there. All right. So again, it's all about what the news is going to bring. Currently, if you're just monitoring the 4-hour candle here with no news events in sight, we may see a 4-hour reversal here and maybe a 4-hour entry if you wait for a break of candlestick high to trade up from this monthly support area. But that means then you're in the face of the US CPI news. So I would be waiting to try and fish down here around about 87 if we can drop down to that area. All right, now dollar yen, this is one pair that I'm watching for, an actual rally back up. So yes, on the monthly chart here, we've possibly creating a double top, but we're seeing pairs to the yen all selling off at very historical high price points. We're 2 months down here on the potential for this double top at the moment. It would be nice to see on the weekly scale, we've moved to a lower bottom. It would be nice to see a lower top come in. It would be nice to see a very nice retracement back up. Back up to weekly support here at 148.80. We're up to the 79% level. We're up to the weekly resistance level up there at 150.15. It would be nice to see a rally back up to the high levels and turn over and put in a lower top. So we will have to wait and see if that can come around. So I'm just monitoring this pair at the moment to see if we can get 1 or 2 weeks up. All right, day chart, it's just holding a downtrend. So whilst I'm waiting for the higher rally, it may not come. And maybe it will only retrace back up within the range of last week, which is the day chart range. So this range from lower top to bottom, it has over the last 24 hours tagged the 79% retracement and broken day support at 146.22. So it may have already topped for the week. So when the news event comes out today, I would most definitely be you could be monitoring a fib range here for a rally back up to this area where it failed yesterday to hold for the next move down. So of course, nobody knows what the news event's going to bring, but getting your chart set, can this come back up to 79% level of last week, which is 146.25, 79%, 146.28 of this range from high to low, and the day resistance level at 146.22, that area there. Can we get up to that area? Retest, hold for a further decline this week. All right, let's jump into gold. So where is gold going? So obviously Forex broke those triple tops. It is holding to its weekly trend in terms of a higher bottom, higher top at the moment. That was a very nasty candle the week before. So it has, I know, moved below the 62% level. So the 79% area of the range. And it's at this top here at 1987, that weekly top. It's actually a little bit underneath that weekly top at the moment. So the question will be this week, if we get a close above there today, maybe we're bottoming out here for the next attempt to have a go at those significant highs. But we have actually put in a lower top here, minor lower top there. So day trend has turned down over the last week after that massive rejection. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So we are back into support areas at the moment. It's a question of monitoring the support area at 1986. Do you get a close above? If you do, can you start to see the structure on the 4-hour chart turn to up? Or maybe are we going to put in some kind of structure here on the 4-hour chart to bottom out, change the trend to up on the 4-hour chart from 1987 to move back up? It's not telling us that yet, but weekly trend is up here. It hasn't been broken yet. Are we actually going to be holding here on weekly support and the 79% fib, for the next move this way? If geopolitical uncertainty holds, if maybe the Fed this week is more than suggested that interest rate cuts are coming next year, maybe that's positive for gold. And maybe, yes, this is just a pullback here. So can you see your setup starting to form if this area starts to hold support? All right. Okay. Azu, did you get my analysis on the New Zealand dollar or not? Let's head back to the New Zealand dollar. Really what I'm suggesting on the New Zealand dollar is we had a week down last week from the 62% area and monthly resistance at 62.04, reversal week. I'm just looking for price to come back up within the week to retest the resistance area if it can for an opportunity to sell. So to my 4-hour chart, I have a fib drawn from last week's high to low. And I'm looking at the 79% area up here at 61.96 and the monthly resistance level at 62.04 and last month's high at 62.07. This area up here, can it get retested on a news spike this week with all the news events coming out? That's an area I'm watching to short. NAS100, well, it is in a monthly uptrend now. It's very high up. but it's in an uptrend. So, and it's a very similar commentary to what I said in the S&P 500. Monthly trend is now up on the S&P 500. Same with the Nasdaq, but we've obviously got the high, the ultimate high up here at 16,849. So what is going to happen at the ultimate high? This is very high, of course. So is it an area where you really want to be a buyer? Weekly trends up. Last week, we kind of tried to move back below this area and rejected. So this is looking relatively bullish on the weekly chart with that dip below and closing above. This could well be coming up to test this high. All right, day chart. Now, if I wanted to trade this to the upside, I would want to see a fib retracement. 62 level overlaps with this support. So, if it could set up to pull back, trend is up, go that way. All right, we're at high prices historically, but trend structure is up. We've broken above resistance. Can it become support for a move higher? If we false break, if we get a clear close back below that 15,943 level, and we maybe we get a weekly reversal candle this week to close below that level, then of course maybe we're getting a reversal, but at the moment it's not showing a reversal. So structurally in an uptrend at the moment, yes, it's notably we're at very historical high levels. So I don't really like to trade at such high levels because of course at such historical high levels, that's where people are taking their profits on their stocks, and some people are obviously getting positioned to reverse the other way. So is that an area where you want to be a buyer? But that given, trend there is most definitely up. And if we get a hint from the Fed that interest rate cuts are coming sooner rather than later, well, that's kind of bullish for stocks, isn't it, as well? So you need to bear that in mind. All right. All right, so that's my thoughts on the Nasdaq. All right, any final questions while you're thinking of a question or not? Tomorrow, if you head over to the webinar page, I'm going to be going through the 100 pip trade entry, position, set and forget position trading approach. That's tomorrow's topic on the webinar front, 8 p.m. and more analysis from me on Thursday. So if you want to join me further through the week, just come over to the webinar page and register your interest. All right, so be very aware, everybody, if you're coming in late, we have this evening the US CPI data, which is the inflation data coming out at 11:30 p.m. Queensland time. It's going to be highly volatile then. Tomorrow, it's going to be highly volatile at the same time, 11:30 p.m. for the PPI data, which is more inflation data. And of course, 5 o'clock in the morning on Thursday when they have the interest rate decision. So we have lots of high-risk news events. I'm just waiting for the market to pass those events, and can price get driven to maybe an area that I'm watching, and then can I see a setup to trade? All right. Charles, thanks to you. All right, everybody, so I'm going to love you and leave you with that information this evening. Hopefully you can work with that. Just be very aware of the data. I'm not going to be doing anything till the data passes, and if I miss out because price gets too volatile and ruins a setup that a level that I'm watching, I'll just have to live with it. It's all a question of managing the risk at these risky news times. Okay, so I'll leave you with that thought. All right, look forward to seeing you through the week if you have a time. Other than that, have a great day, everybody.